Welcome to Triumph IAS. It's a daily mains practice question and answer series. This program is exclusively designed for UPSC CSE aspirants. In this video discussion, we will discuss UPSC CSE mains previous 25-year questions. Question number 1. Explain the formation of thousands of islands in Indonesian and Philippines archipelagos. Let's start with the introduction. Indonesia and Philippines constitute two of the 5 main archipelagos in the world. Moving on to the main body of the answer. 1 archipelago refers to a group of relatively small islands. Both Indonesian and Philippines archipelagos are a result of a combination of volcanic activity and tectonic plate movement. 2. Both Indonesian and Philippines archipelagos are prone to volcanic and seismic activity due to the convergence of continental plates. 3. Archipelagos tend to be predominantly volcanic, with their island arcs being created either due to subduction or erosion, deposition, and land elevation. 4. These islands were initially formed by the volcanoes, and later the movement of tectonic plates facilitated their consolidation as a group of small islands in a relatively small area. 5. Volcanic eruption at the surface of ocean leads to seepage of magma into the water, resulting into formation of rocks or mountains. Finally, the conclusion of the answer should be: continuous release of magma leads to formation of mountains which emerges out of sea-forming island arcs and eventually archipelagos. In case of Indonesia and Philippines, island arcs are formed along the convergent boundary of Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean.
Question number 2. Though 100% FDI is already allowed in non-news media like a trade publication and general entertainment channel, the government is mulling over the proposal for increased FDI in news media for quite some time. What difference would an increase in FDI make? Critically evaluate the pros and cons. Let's start with the introduction. Media is considered as the 4th pillar of democracy. Besides keeping an eye on government, media has also been instrumental in raising various socio-economic issues and interests of vulnerable sections of society. Moving on to the main body of the answer. However, of late the growth of Indian media has been struggling and also has been infested with corrupt practices like spreading rumors, trying to set specific agenda, etc. Therefore, it is the time that Indian media is met with certain reforms. Pros of increase in FDI: internal democracy of the working of media increase. Transparent, responsible, accountable media section emerge which skip off the unscrupulous practice of domestic media house. Scrutiny, authenticity and standard of news increased because at present media coverage is limited due to financial crunch and the dogmatic commercial houses who influence the news for profit-seeking purpose. Mitigate the effect of yellow journalism and broaden the scope for investigation journalism. Diversified media coverage. Cons of increase in FDI media: in narrow aspect is news making, but in broader sense is connected to integrity and security of India. It's a very responsible task, hence handled to the people of national at large. A firm with illicit intention can harm the stakeholder of large spectrum, i.e. bureaucrat, politician, commercial firm and people itself. It harm the already established domestic media houses. Lobby, grouping, partisanship, malified collaboration etc. by the external player for policy norm regarding media might and will make the condition of chaos and confusion. Westernization of India. Finally, the conclusion of the answer should be: hence FDI in news media should be allowed only after a suitable regulatory framework is in place and bodies like Press Council of India and Broadcasting Standards Authority of India are given more teeth.
Question number 3. Can overuse and the availability of antibiotics without doctor's prescription the contributors to the emergence of drug-resistant diseases in India? What are the available mechanisms for monitoring and control? Critically discuss the various issues involved. Let's start with the introduction. India is one of the largest consumers of antibiotics in the world. Though antibiotics have helped treat many diseases and save lives, their overuse and misuse have created a new menace: antibiotic resistance. Moving on to the main body of the answer. Mechanisms for monitoring and control of antibiotics. 1. In order to strengthen the surveillance of antimicrobial resistance in the country, Indian Council of Medical Research has set up a National Antimicrobial Resistance Research and Surveillance Network to enable compilation of national data of AMR at different levels of healthcare. 2. The Drugs and Cosmetic Rule, 1945 were amended in 2013 to incorporate a new Schedule H1 under the said rules containing 46 drugs which include 3 and 4 generation antibiotics, anti-TB drugs and certain habit-forming drugs for having strict control over the sale of these drugs. The drugs falling under Schedule H1 are required to be sold in the country with the following conditions. 1. The supply of a drug specified in Schedule H1 shall be recorded in a separate register at the time of the supply, giving the name and address of the prescriber, the name of the patient, the name of the drug and the quantity supplied, and such records shall be maintained for 3 years and be open for inspection. 2. The drug specified in Schedule High shall be labeled with the symbol RX, which shall be in red and conspicuously displayed on the left top corner of the label, and shall also be labeled with the following words in a box with a red border. Further, the Government of India has formulated a national policy for containment of antimicrobial resistance in 2011. A national program for containment of AMR has also been initiated in 12th Five-Year Plan with the following objectives. 1. To establish a laboratory-based surveillance system by strengthening laboratories for AMR in the country, and to generate quality data on antimicrobial resistance for pathogens of public health importance. 2. To generate awareness among healthcare providers and in the community regarding rational use of antibiotics. 3. To strengthen infection control guidelines and practices and promote rational use of antibiotics. The Union government has taken an important first step in that direction by introducing a stringent rule that prohibits medical stores from selling 24 key antibiotics without a doctor's prescription. Various issues involved in overuse and free availability of antibiotics, strict implementation of the over-the-counter sale of listed antibiotics. Second-time offenders should be prosecuted under non-bailable offences and deregistration of concerned chemists. First-timers should be penalized heavily. Antimicrobial surveillance network system should be broadened for antibiotic resistance, mechanism of monitoring including prescription audits. Awareness generation among citizens and discourage them to go for unnecessary use of antibiotics without consulting a physician. Regulatory provision for monitoring use of antibiotics in human, veterinary and industrial sectors, and identification of specific intervention measures for rational use of antibiotics.